Stephen, so good for you to join us. Bring us up to speed here. What's happening?
So this all started at least in 2025 in Washington, D.C., when a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers on the Senate and the House side, Republicans and Democrats, they signed a letter to the UK Home Office demanding transparency for a hearing involving the technology company Apple. There was a concern that there was going to be a crack made in the encryption services offered by Apple at the behest of the UK government, and the U.S. wanted to be clued into it. The main problem here is that when you get a backdoor created by the UK government in order to, say, enact national security purposes or surveil domestic terrorists or foreign terrorists operating in the country, that dragnet also includes Americans visiting your country. And it also is the case that when you create a backdoor through encryption within your own borders, that backdoor exists everywhere. That is the nature of the digital world, and it creates a huge vulnerability for American consumers, which is why Jim Jordan has been on this now for so long.
Yeah, what do you think? We've been talking about differences when it comes to free speech between the two countries, differences when it comes to integration within particular cultural groups. What do you think this particular case says about what I would suggest is perhaps an increasing divide between the United Kingdom and the United States of America?
Yeah, well, I think, what Jim Jordan is asking for here from Mahmoud is for permission to be given to U.S. firms operating within the UK to share with their U.S. stakeholders and with the U.S. government that they have been subject to an encryption backdoor. So basically right now, if a U.S. company is operating in London, they cannot disclose to anybody involved in the firm that the UK government has a backdoor into their services, their technology, and it puts Americans at risk of cyber attacks from Russian intelligence services, Iranian, North Korean, Chinese. And what is so frustrating about this, by and large, is that those four countries that I mentioned, they are opposed to the interests of Canada, the US, Britain, Australia, the Five Eyes Coalition, as it's called when it comes to intelligence services. We are not banding together to support one another and create a firewall against our enemies. We are spending a lot of time surveilling one another and not actually acting like allies. And I think that's the most concerning part here, is that we don't look out for each other on each side of the Atlantic. And there are a lot of reasons for that. The animosity between our countries has been building up for a litany of reasons, but I think we should be able to put those things aside when it comes to basic consumer protection and surveillance concerns.
Yeah, does this also have an impact on foreign investment from the United States into the United Kingdom? The United Kingdom is almost in, I guess, a quasi-competition with Europe for American investment dollars. How does this play out from that perspective?
I'm not sure how it will play out in terms of investment. I think that there would be an obvious concern if you are a technology company in having an office, like a headquarters building located in the UK, because then that makes you subject to those rules. So that is the main concern. But, what we're seeing here right now is a huge change in the paradigm and how the U.S. views encryption. Historically, encryption, on my iPhone, Apple is really the best in the game for consumer protection for people who use their devices. And this was a frustration point for the U.S. government, both the FBI, the CIA, and the intelligence committees within Congress, because anytime a terrorist did something within the U.S. and then his iPhone was left at the scene, the FBI could not get into those devices without the permission of Apple. And so Congress, for many, many years, particularly in the 2010s, was pushing for a backdoor into those devices. But that has changed because Congress has learned, and I think been briefed by our cybersecurity analysts at this point, that when you create those backdoors for the purpose of domestic terrorism or countering terrorism abroad, you end up creating a problem for all consumers, everybody who uses an iPhone. And the UK has not caught up on this conventional wisdom when it comes to tech and security, and they really need to.